Hi guys, how you doing? It's Will here. Another fight card this weekend, so I'm going to break it down from top to bottom. Um, but yeah, UFC 158, GSP versus Diaz for the UFC welterweight championship. Going to be a great fight. It's been building over the last few weeks. Then we had the conference call last week where they were going at each other. It was kind of getting everything moving. So yeah, this is going to be a good fight, and we're going to see the direction of where the welterweight division is going to go in the next 6 months to a year. With the main card, we've got the last three fights are in the welterweight division, so we're going to see the direction we're going to go there. With a few exceptions, maybe with Ronan McDonald, and maybe have something to say about that. But we're going to go right down to the start of the card. George Roop against Ruben Duran, bantamweight division. This is Roop's first fight down there. He's coming off a couple of losses. He lost to Hayoki and he lost to Swanson. His last win was against Josh Gillespie about 18 months ago, I think. It was a body shot that he knocked him out with and won the fight. He holds a win over the Korean Zombie. Ruben Duran, this is his fourth fight in the UFC. He lost his last fight to Hugo Viana. He lost a decision, I think, early on, his first fight maybe in the UFC to Takeya Mitsugaki. And his only win in the UFC came over Francisco Rivera with a rear naked choke. I actually quite like Duran, and I hope he wins this fight. I'm going to go with Duran by decision. But I think if either one of these guys lose, they're out the UFC, because we know the UFC are cutting people. And I reckon, especially if Roop loses this, he's lost 3 straight, he'll get his pink slip out of the UFC. Duran, maybe not so much, but I'm going to go by Ruben Duran by decision. But I think this could be a close fight. It's a pick 'em fight, kind of either one. So yeah. Next up, we've got TJ Dillashaw against Izzy Tamura. Dillashaw, he was on tough a few years ago, lost in the final. Ever since he's got knocked out by John Dodson in the final, he's looked fairly impressive. He's got wins over Vaughn Lee and Willel Watson. Comes from Team Alpha Male, which I'm quite a big fan of. I have been for years. I've been a Uriah Faber fan, who's probably the main matriarch of that fight camp. So yeah, I like this fight for Dillashaw. I think this is right up his alley. He can kind of win in a lot of ways here. Would like to see kind of his improved striking a little bit, because we know he's a good grappler and ground fighter. Would like to see improved stand up against Tamura. His third fight in UFC, 1 win, 1 loss. He went over to Tishuan Zhang, which isn't nothing to kind of brag about. But he lost his last fight to Rafael Assunção. And he's got a win on his record against Gustavo Falcarore, who is a name, quite a kind of decent name outside of the UFC for the lower weight divisions. So yeah, I'm going to go with TJ Dillashaw by kind of however he wants, to be honest with you, but I can see a submission maybe in the second round if he wants to go there. Next up, we've got Rick Story against Quinn Mulhern. Rick Story, he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. This guy looked very promising. There was talk of title shots, and he has wins over like Thiago Alves and Johnny Hendricks. He's gave Hendricks his only loss of his career. Looked very good against Alves, but he's lost 3 of his last 4. He lost to Maia, he lost to Campman, and he lost to Brenneman. Ever since that fight with Charlie Brenneman, and I think it was Pittsburgh, and Brenneman was a late replacement, he hasn't looked the same. And it's I hope he can kind of get back to where he was, because he's a good fighter. He kind of likes to go out and throw a little bit, but once you get down the ground, he can be quite dominant down there. But in his last fight against Damon Maia's a beast in the welterweight division, and I think he will be one of the ones that gets a title shot fairly soon. No harm in kind of losing to a good name like Damon Maia. It was a sick submission that Maia caught him with as well. But he's against Quinn Mulhern, a guy from Strikeforce. He's probably his biggest win in his career was 3 years ago into Rich Clemente. It's a tough first fight in the UFC for him, if you ask me. Story's a bit of a beast, and his last win was against Yuri Villafort. Now, if you watch UFC 157, Rousey v Carmish, right from the start, he had a bit of a war with Nishan Barrow and lost the decision. So this is a tough fight for him. I think Story's going to, if he wants, he can maybe pound him out when he gets down the ground. I think that's what he might do second round. If not, he'll get a decision fairly easy. Next up, we've got a really, really good looking fight in the card. This could have fight of the night written all over it. Dan Cruikshank against John McDessie. both guys who love to stand up. Cruikshank's coming off a really nasty knockout of Henry Martinez, where Martinez was taking shots and coming forward, and it took a spectacular head kick to take him out. He was on Tough a few years back. Quite a good guy. I've spoken to him on Twitter a few times, and he interacts with fans very well as well. So he's got a tough fight here against Makdessi, he wins a few and kind of loses a few. He's got another spectacular KO of Kyle Watson, spinning back fist, absolutely bopped him right in the chin. Watson was out, but he's coming off a win over Stam Stout, is Makdessi. But I like Cruikshank in this fight. I think he's going to be a bit too strong for him. I think if he catches him with something, he could hurt him. But I say I'm a fan of Cruikshank. Makdessi's quite a good guy as well, but I like Cruikshank, and I hope he gets the win here as well. Next up, we've got Bobby Volkner against Jordan Mayen versus Dan Miller. Now Jordan Mayen's a young kid, 23 years old, from Canada, and this is his 35th fight in his fight career, and his very first fight in MMA was against one of the standouts of the welterweight division in the UFC at the minute, and it's Rory McDonald. Talk about a tough fight to start your MMA career. He's fought a lot of fights. He's won a load of fights. He's only lost a few fights, but most of his fights are against people that we don't really know, that's been in Canada, and I've watched a few and they didn't look great, if I'm being honest. He's got wins over Joe Riggs, Josh Buckman, Evangelista Santos when he was in Strikeforce. I think he beat Forrest Petts, an ex-UFC vet, in his last fight. Dan Miller, 12th fight in the UFC. Losses, he hasn't won that many. He's kind of a mainstay of the bottom half of I think it was middleweight division. Now down at welterweight, I think that's where he's at. I could be wrong with that, I haven't really checked. But he's lost to like Sonnen, Paul Harris, Michael Bisping. He's coming off a win against Ricardo Funch. Nothing to brag about really. I think Jordan Mayen's going to get an easy decision victory here. Next up, we've got Darren Elkins against Antonio Carvalho. Carvalho from Canada is on his 2-fight win streak. Nasty KO of Daniel Pineda. I think it was UFC 149 maybe. And then he got a victory over Rodrigo Dam by decision. I think it's a tough fight he's got against Elkins, because Elkins will get you down and he'll stifle you. And I think he'll do that here. He's on a 4-fight win streak himself. I think he's 5-1 in the UFC. He's coming off wins over Diego Brandao and Steven Seiler, Th Quan Zhang, Omagawa, and I think he beat Ludwig in between that loss. I can't remember who he lost to. He has a win over the Bellator featherweight champion at the minute as well. He beat Pat Kern a few years back before he was in the UFC. But this is going to be a tough fight for Carvalho. I think Elkins is going to take him down and just kind of pound him out and get a decision fairly easily. Next up, we've got Bobby Volkner against Patrick the Predator Cote. Volkner, I haven't really seen that much of him. He was in Strikeforce. Let me see, his record's 24-8, so it's not too bad. His last 2 wins were a kind of trilogy fight against Roger Bowling, which I did see those fights, and it wasn't bad fights at all. But this is a tough fight, I think, in the UFC. He fought kind of mostly in the Challenger Series over there. Cote, his first fight was in the UFC, was UFC 50. So he's been in the company a long time. He's kind of been in and out. He came back against Kung Lee and he lost to Kung Lee there. So yeah, but his first fight was against Tito Ortiz years ago. He fought Anderson Silva for the title at UFC 90. He got outclassed. But and he's coming off a win over Sakara, which was a bit fucked up, to be honest with you, because I think it was Sakara got DQ for punches to the back of the head, which were kind of fair enough, if I'm being honest with you. But I think Patrick Cote is going to win this fight. It's in Canada. I can't really see him losing there, but you never know. I'm going to go with Cote by KO, TKO, let's say second round. Then we go into the main card. We've kind of got the first 2 fights in the main card are kind of weak, if I'm being honest with you. We've got Mike Ricci and Freak Show Fletcher. Now Mike Ricci, he's 7-3, but he's fought some decent fighters when he wasn't in the UFC. He was in Tough, Team Nelson v Team Carwin about a year ago, maybe not even that. 7-3 record, as I was saying. He lost to Darren Cruikshank, losses to Pat Curran, but he's actually got a win over Jordan May, and I'm just reading here, and he's actually the personal stylist to a certain Rory McDonald. So it's a little bit gay, if I'm being honest with you, but hey, I thought he was actually going to win the series of Tough he was on, but he lost. Colton Smith got the spoils of that fight there, so yeah. Freak Show Fletcher, he lost in the final of the Smashes tournament when it was the GB versus the Australians. He lost to Norman Park from Sunderland. I think either one of these guys could cut off this fight as well, but who knows. I'm going to go with Mike Ricci because I just think he's going to have too much for Freak Show. But I'd like to see Freak Show win, but I think Mike Ricci will win. Next up, we've got another weak fight. We've got Chris Camozzi against Nick Ring. Now, Nick Ring, I can't really stand, to be honest with you. He got a controversial win against Court McGee, UFC 149. He's 13-1. That's his MMA record, and his only loss is to Tim Boach, and he's got wins over Ricky Fukuda and James Head, and he fights out of TriStar. Don't really want to talk much about Nick Ring because I think I'm just not big on him at all. Chris Camozzi is from Colorado. His last win was against Luis Kane in Brazil, I think it was, and he fucked up a bet of mine, so I'll never pick against him again or pick in a fight where he is. He's got wins over Nick Catone, Dustin Jacoby as well, and Dongy Yang, I think was one of them. He was in Tough a few years back as well, and I think he's going to win this fight. I hope he wins this fight just for the fact that Nick Ring's a bit of a hoop, and I hope he loses. And he got a decision against Court McGee at 149, which he should never have got. And then next up, we can go into the welterweight, the three big fights of the night. We've got Jake Ellenberger against Nate the Great Marquardt. Now, Marquardt's a former champion, welterweight champion in Strikeforce. He lost his last fight against Tariq Saffiedine, but he was in the UFC for years. He fought all the big fighters. This is his first fight in the UFC in 2 years, where he used to fight predominantly in the middleweight division. So yeah, but as I say, he never got knocked out. Sorry, he beat Tyron Woodley for the title, knocked him out, and then he got kind of dismantled by Tariq Saffiedine in the last Strikeforce card there. Jake Ellenberger, he's a perennial contender in the division. He's got power, he's got wrestling. I think he can knock out anybody in the division as well. Coming off a win over Jay Haron, I think he's going to have too much fun. Marquardt here can take him down and just kind of pound him out. I think Ellenberger's going to get a decision here, so I think it could be a really good fight that as well. But I'm going to go Ellenberger by decision. Co-main event, we've got a really good fight, an awesome fight. Carlos Condon against Johnny Hendricks. Now Hendricks has been calling for a title shot. Should he got it? He probably should have. Nick Diaz, GSP didn't ask for Nick Diaz. So yeah, he's 13-1, and he's headhunting. He's going for people's head, and he's got power. And if he touches your chin, you go to sleep. Ask John Fitch, Martin Campman. He hit their chin, and they were out, and it was sick to see. The guy's got some serious power there. Condit's coming off a loss when he lost the interim title to GSP at 154. So yeah, I like Condit in this fight. I think he can submit him, and I think he can get an easy decision. So, and he's always in exciting fights. He's got fights with Hardy and McDonald, which were really exciting. So I'm going to go by Condit by decision. Then the main card, the main event of the night is GSP versus Nick Diaz. Sorry, my bad. Diaz is just a crazy motherfucker. He comes out and he speaks his shit, and he comes to fight, which is always great. GSP's really, I think he's up for this fight because Diaz is talking a lot of shit about him. We all know what GSP's like. He'll take you down and he can kind of pound you out, but he can not pound you out, but he can like lay on you and get a decision easily. But he's seen against Jake Shields, he kind of established the jab and he hurt Shields a little bit. Diaz is kind of dangerous anyway. He's a Gracie fighter, former Strikeforce welterweight champion where he dominated over there. This has got the meanings of a great fight on it. I'm just I can't stop smiling when I think about this fight. I really want Nick Diaz to win, even though GSP is one of the best ever. I just want Nick Diaz to win because I think having a Diaz brother as a champion in the UFC would be insane. So I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to go for Nick Diaz over GSP. So let me know what you think. What with my picks, and enjoy the fights this weekend. I'll be back soon. I'm sure there's another card round the corner. I haven't really looked, been working a lot, so enjoy the fights, and I'll see you all soon. So enjoy the fights again, and I'll see you soon.